Mala Khalil asked me to take some reflections on the year and to tell you guys what our plan is for next year. So, did Mala Yahya do that with you? No. Okay. Okay, Mala Khalil asked me to do it last night. So basically, yeah, what our plan is for next year is, inshallah. So, I mean, what our course structure was initially supposed to be is that we had a first year, a second year. Those 2 years were the Arabic program, right? Wherein we focus on Nahu, Sarf, Reader, Quran. In the first year, in the second year, Nahu 2, Sarf 2, more readers, slightly more advanced, and Quran. And then a Dawrah year, in which the only focus was actually Quran, right? And the Dawrah class was basically the second year is just every year, as the second year complete, they just get added to the Dawrah class for logistic purposes. We couldn't have too many classes, obviously, in terms of the teachers and the space and all of those things. So the second years get added to the Dawrah class when they complete second year, and that's a revolving class. So say we'll be doing the entire Quran according to the sequence of the first class that entered there. But then the following year, whatever we did in the first year with that class, we'll do it in the, let's say it takes 3 years over there. Then in the fourth year, we'll do the same thing we did in the first year of that class. And that's every year students will get to cover all of the content. With COVID, we had a bit of a spanner in the works because of the logistics, the teachers that were available to teach. The whole thing was online for like nearly 2 years, I think, right? So it was very different. And for that reason, the second years, I'm not sure exactly now. We have a first year class and then we have this class, which is like everyone else, right? And so we're trying to do as best as we can, as we could do, cover everything. So what we're going to do next year is, we are going to, from next year, I think we're going to reintroduce first year, second year. So I don't think anybody else will be added to this class unless there's people that have done prior Arabic or Islamic studies that want to enter the class. But then what we're going to do is we're going to apportion our day like this. We're going to have 2 periods dedicated to Quran and Tafsir. And then if I recall correctly, 2 periods dedicated to 2 other subjects. Right? And we'll have them. It's either 2 other subjects or 1 other subject, right? But we're going to have them as modules. So for half a year, you do a subject in that period, right? And so for a year, you'll do either 2 or 4 subjects, depending on how we allocate the time. Those will be almost like standalone, if you want, modules. So if other people would like to join for that particular module, learn something about fiqh or hadith or usulul fiqh, like Islamic legal theory, or hadith sciences, not hadith per se, but hadith sciences or aqidah, whatever the case may be, they can join for just that module. And then we will also, inshallah, be trying to include other teachers in that as well. So I'll be here for some of them, Mala Khalil will be here for some of them, Mala Yahya will be here for some of them, hopefully Mala Muhammad will be back. And I think in our discussions, we were looking at some other like prominent ulama in those fields, like who are specialized in those fields. So maybe, for example, in Tajweed, maybe I'm not supposed to mention this online because I don't know if the permission was sorted, but in Tajweed, for example, or in Quran, like Ulumul Quran, perhaps Malana Salim Gaibi or Sheikh Ismail Lant or somebody that's a specialist in that field. So we're going to try to institute that from next year, inshallah, right? So we'll have those modules that people can buy into, and we'll just arrange our day in such a manner that we have our Quran periods in the morning, and then we have that in the latter part of the day. And also bring back like quotas to our Quran periods, because we used to work on quotas. We never used to really always meet the quotas, but we got close. But I think in the absence of the quotas, the amount of tafsir can be maybe not proportionally correct. So that's basically the plan that we have for next year, inshallah. Yes. I think we were looking at like 9 or 10 weeks. So it's either 2 or 4. I can't remember. Mawlana Khalil was supposed to send me the planning doc that we worked on. Yeah, so it might be for some of them, for example, if we're doing it like per term, and for some of them it might be over 2 terms, because some subjects it's not possible to cover a fundamental text in 1 term. And what we're going to be trying to do there is, it's not possible for all of them, but for some of them we're going to be trying to do classical Islamic texts. So using traditional Arabic texts that are like authoritative, if you want, in those sciences. We're going to be trying to select those as our coursework. And we'll generally also try to select ones that have good English translations. Yes. Can you do the readers? I don't look, you're gonna have to definitely work on proficiency, right? But that's gonna come through repeated engagement. It's not necessarily gonna come through more nahu or more sarf, right? It's not gonna come through that. In fact, the Quran is a linguistic miracle. So you can expect it to be very involved, nuanced things in the Quran. But in a didactic poem, you like, when I say didactic poem, I mean a poem that was written to codify a specific subject, to make it easy to learn a subject. You're not necessarily going to find all of that, because it's not there to, show literary prowess or anything like that. It's just to codify a subject and make it easy to learn. So, I mean, in our Islamic turath, in our Islamic legacy or academic legacy, the phenomenon exists in sciences that you'd have people who would write books, like just normal writing, right? But then you'd also have scholars who would write poems that codify the main views within a subject, sometimes in poem form, sometimes just in brief texts that you generally require a teacher to unpack with you, but that encapsulate the main masail or the main issues in a subject. And those poems would make it easy to learn, easy to access. So, for example, my kid is 3 years old. He knows the poem in Aqidah. How does he know it? He just listens to it in the car. So I never taught it to him, anything like that. But maybe, inshallah, when he's bigger and he can understand the concepts, and then I'll unpack that poem with him. And then I'll tell him, okay, Abda'u bismillahi wa rahmani wa birrahimi da'im al-ihsani. This is what that means. This is what that word means. This is how you can unpack that word. And in so doing, hopefully, inshallah, I mean, I wasn't actually really purposeful in it. He just liked listening to nasheeds and stuff. So I thought, okay, let him listen to this thing. And a lot of it stuck. So that was one of the pedagogical tools that was often employed in our Islamic Torah. You learn a poem, it's easy to learn, it's not very long, and what it does is it enables you to almost build encyclopedic knowledge for yourself, because now you have a poem that's memorized, it's in your mind, and then you just know a little bit of detail about each word, and that's how you know a lot about the subject. So yeah, it's likely that we're going to try and choose texts like that. We did discuss the texts that we're going to use in each subject, but yeah, Mullah Khalil has that on our planning document, which he hasn't sent to me. So I think we're also going to try and have an array of subjects in here. In Arabic, sometimes they'll call it a manduma. Matan. Mutun. Plural of matan is mutun. Matan just means like a brief text. So sometimes that doesn't necessarily mean it's in poetic form. No, so it depends on which subject. So you'll have mutun that are just very brief texts written in prose, for example, and then you'll have ones that are put into poetic form. And that will usually refer to as a manduma. I don't think so. Yeah, I had to go listen to them. I had to go listen to them. Yeah. They asked me to come listen to these things. But that was just like an added extra. It was an added extra for the Aqidah. So I teach Aqidah at the Darul Uloom in Strand. Well, Muhammad teaches it there. So he basically wanted me to come, like, listen to the students and give them some advice afterwards. But that was not, and I think maybe for the first year, they have a very basic poem. But in the second year, I don't think it's like, so I don't think it's an essential component of the course. But it certainly is part of our traditional Islamic learning.
Like all kind of basis of
Yes. Yes. But obviously, it sometimes might take a bit longer there because of the focus on the Arabic language and the depth in, like, they might hone in on certain things to a greater degree for purposes of building on, like, for example, if I want to teach fiqh to somebody who I'm going to prepare to be a faqih, as opposed to somebody who I want to teach fiqh so that they know fiqh for themselves, there's a different, there's a different approach to that. I have to teach him the technical terms of the science. I need to teach him how, precedent law works in the Shafi madhab, for example. So some of that will be touched on, but it's not going to be that's not going to be the focus of the course. What we will be focusing on is that we convey a working knowledge in each of the sciences, right? From fundamental texts. So you have pedagogies where, like if you take the Mauritanian system, for example, they might learn text of the poem after poem, text after text, each one becoming more and more advanced as you go along. Still poems. It's not like you're learning the entire encyclopedia, but what happens is you will have that poem in your mind, and then you'll go study a commentary on the poem. But then what happens is, because they take each word and they make comments on it, it's easy for those comments to stick in your mind. It's just a tool. It's a tool that you use to basically enable you to order and organize the information in your mind. So that is our intention for next year, inshallah, with this class.
That you don't know, and sometimes we need to understand some rules pops up and it's like familiar to us. I mean, would you have like a lesson or complete lesson on that? Like we do all the other things?
You see, what we can do is there's enough nahu to do that for the rest of your life. Right? So what? Look, in terms of the method that our teacher taught us, Mawlana Taha, rahimahullah, was that you in nahu and in sarf and in basic, those are what you call ulum al-ala. They're instrumental sciences. They are sciences that you are required to learn or you need to learn to enable you to study other things, right? So his philosophy on that he passed on to us is that you need to have enough instruments to do the work that you need to do. But you don't need to have a tool shed full of instruments that you're never going to use. So there may be rules in the Quran that appear like maybe twice or thrice in the Quran. I can think of one verse in the Quran, or maybe two verses in the Quran, where you have a verb that seems to end with a tanween. وَلَا يَكُونَ مِنَ الصَّاغِرِينَ. So to dedicate, an entire lesson to that, or a few lessons to that, it doesn't seem like the time to benefit ratio is that high. So what we'll do is just like mention that in passing. It's not really good. In fact, if you're just aware of it in those two instances of the Quran, it suffices you. So there may be times that when going through the Quran, we highlight this is something that is recurring, and then we have a lesson on it. But there will be no nahu sarf period. There will be Quran period and maybe taught in there. So it might be that on that particular day we decide, okay, look, we're going to take 20 minutes to unpack this, this phenomenon. But it's going to be done in the Quran period. Yes. So it will be done in the Quran period. But the period that will actually be like this year, for example, there was a time allocated for nahu. Next year, that will not be the case. It will be a time allocated for a different subject. The core, like, if there are things that we haven't completed yet for the one class in relation to the marfu'at, because we did now, mubtada, khabar, naibul fa'il. Those are the ones that we did, right? And there were still three others. The three others were ismu kana, khabaru inna. And the last one is actually the mubtada, but basically it's just the fact that the mubtada can be delayed, right? So those are very simple lessons. So if it is, obviously not going to go through all of them this year, but if we need to dedicate maybe a lesson or two to that next year, then we'll do that. But other than that, it's not going to be a dedicated nahu period. So. Yes, inshallah. I can ask Sister as soon as possible. And the other thing is, like I sent to you Mawlana Taha's books on the two Nahu books, right? Navigating Arabic Text 1 and 2. Those books are like self-explanatory. If you read it, it's as if you have Mawlana Taha explaining it to you. In fact, sometimes the way he explains things, it's exact. I mean, well, he wrote it, so it's exactly how you might explain it to you. So those are always resources. And, your working knowledge of Arabic, of Nahu and Sarf, depends on that little table that we had summarizing the marfu'at, mansubat, majrurat, and tawabi', right? Which is also in that book. So that's it. We have allocated a module for balagha. So the ulum al-ala that usually gets studied is nahu, it's rhetoric. So usually we have the ulum al-ala that the student would usually study is nahu, sarf, mantiq or logic, right? And balagha, rhetoric. Nobody studies mantiq nowadays unless you do maths. I studied mantiq at university. You do? You use it in maths. It's the same thing using language. Maths is a language. But yeah. So actually, I had a bit of an up hand because the exact same logic you learn in like a primary school, traditional primary school Islamic studies level is the same thing you learn in third year maths. So yeah, those are the four main ones: Nahu, Sarf, Balagha, rhetoric, and Mantiq, logic. And then there's some other ulum that are considered ulum al-ala, usul al-fiqh, ulum al-hadith. Some may consider those to be ulum al-ala.
New structure. So I can share it.
I thought it might be done already, but maybe next week. So maybe in holiday sometime. No, so the way in which we envisage to manage, more coverage of the Quran is that if there is a specific topic that's to be discussed in the fiqh module, then we'll say, look, this discussion we will, direct to the fiqh thing, but we'll also have known in our minds, like for example, now we might get into Aqidah discussion, because at no point in our course was there dedicated time to discuss that thing. We might put it on hold if it's possible, or we might allude to that discussion, and when we get to the discussion in the appropriate subject, like in Aqidah, then we'll unpack it a little. So the purpose of Quran is not simply to understand Arabic. We learn Arabic for the Quran. That's the other way around. So is to cover the content, to understand the content of the Quran. Yeah. So it's more to understand content of the Quran and gain an ability to interact with the Quran. So there was just a dilemma. Do we still have it as an objective of our course to cover the entire Quran? Or do we not have it as an express objective of our course? And decide to rather, focus on certain sections of the Quran that will enable you to maybe unpack a basic tafsir or something like that. And I think our decision was, no, we still have as an intention to cover the Quran, but over the duration of maybe 4 years or so. So again, they also, I think, when Khalil wanted to package the surah into modules as well. So that if people want to join for a surah, they can do that as well. So we'll have our normal students that are here every week, which is most likely going to be the bulk, and maybe 1 or 2 people, a few people that might come in for one. I think there's a question. Yes. Look, it might not necessarily be him, eh? That's somebody we had in mind, if he's willing. But I think some of the people, Mullah Khalil, did like have a discussion with already. But for Tajweed, basically, we're not going to be doing qira'at. No. So we'll be doing, like the fundamentals of Tajweed and maybe a little bit more than that. For example, in a subject like Tajweed. And there will likely be a combination of theory and practice. That's a practical science.
There will be something example in that is the 2 years fair. For example, we will be covering that fixed amount.
I think that the basic Tajweed, Mushkil al-Qari, it can be done in 10 weeks. No, I think it can be done in 10 weeks. Yeah. Look, I think our idea is still to pitch it like, not at like it might be a fundamental text, but it's not like We might move, like, push a bit of pace here. Inshallah. Yes. Over a period of time. We did discuss that as well. And I don't think a decision was taken on that, having something a little bit earlier for recitation. We didn't come to a conclusion on that yet. Yeah, but inshallah, I just wanted to Khalil asked me to just give an introduction to what it is we intend to do for next year. Yes, of course. Yes. 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 I mean, that's the process of ijaza. Maulana Salim, usually if he teaches a book, if he teaches one of his books to somebody and they have competence in it and he can see that they have competence in it, then maybe he might ask the person, okay, let me just test you quickly, and then he'll permit you to give you an ijaza essentially for his book. Yes. Again, I must say it's not our focus of the course will not necessarily be to make a qari or muqri, or it will be to ensure that when you recite the Quran, you recite correctly, pronouncing the letters correctly, you know where you must pull, where you mustn't pull, how long you must pull, where you must do idgham, where you must do hunna, all of those things. Okay, that's enough for that. I wanted to do a